Welcome Talmidim over here in Lubavitcher Yeshiva, which has been gracious once again to host us for our webinar, our monthly webinar. Thank you and welcome to everybody who is joining us from all across Canada, United States, and Be'ez Hashem later on, other places as well. We've gathered today on Ayem Depagra. Today is Chof, Hey, Adar Sheni. Today is the 25th day of Adar Beis. It is the birthday of the Rebitzon, our Rebitzon Chayim Mushka. It is also 2 weeks before the Rebbe's birthday, Yud Alef Nissan. So it's appropriate that we gather today. Shnas Hakhel, we're getting together, Kinos Hakhel, to celebrate the Rebitzon's birthday, to hear about the Rebitzon, things we could learn from the Rebitzon, as well as to better prepare ourselves or begin preparing ourselves for the Rebbe's birthday. Today we have the pleasure and the privilege of having the Rebbe Shliach to Montreal, Canada, Canada, as well as a veteran mechanech, Rabbi Pesach Sperlin, who has taken from his time to speak to us, to fabreng with us. Rabbi Sperlin had the privilege to serve in the Rebitzon's house, and certainly he'll be able to share with us some stories, lessons we could learn from this. We'd like to take the opportunity to wish Rabbi Sperlin a Mazel Tov. Tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem, he'll be celebrating the chasana of his son, and we'd like to thank him for taking from his time to fabreng with us. And Bechavid Gadol, Rabbi Sperlin.
Thank you, Rebbe Leib. It's my honor and privilege. If I have some things to share, you'll hear some interesting things, what directly with the Rebitzon that I had. And for today's day, Chof Adar. The first thing I would like to share with you a story that I heard last week from a young man in Montreal that happened with his father in 1961, Tavshin Chof Aleph. His father was one of the Kvutza Bachrim here in Yeshiva, and his uncle, his name was Yisrael Yitzchak Yisrael. Each of these used to call him Zalmanov. He wasn't that wealthy, especially in those times. In order to come to the Rebbe, tickets were very expensive, and in order to come, you literally had to work a full year's salary to be able to make it to be able to buy a ticket to come to the Rebbe. So there was a group of people that knew that they won't be able to go. They decided they're going to do something symbolic. They collected money that at least one person should be able to go to make a geirel, and that's how every day this Rebbe Yisrael Itcha would put away a few shkolim to be able to participate in this geirel. But he really didn't think he would end up going. After a full year, they collected, it came before Tishrei, Tavshin Chav Beis. He didn't even go to the Hagrala, and then finally, he heard that his name was announced that he won the geirel to go to the Rebbe that Tishrei. Rebbe Yisrael Yitzchak comes to the Rebbe. He spent the whole Tishrei by the Rebbe. Simchas Torah that year was an exceptional freiliche Simchas Torah, and he was participating the hakafes, the fabrengen, and so on. It was 3 o'clock in the morning after the Rebbe's hakafes on Simchas Torah. Some went to rest, some went home to eat, some went to the mikveh already to be able to have a place for the next following morning. This Rebbe Yisrael Yitzchak was walking on Brooklyn Avenue, and if you know, there used to be a mikveh on Brooklyn and Eastern Parkway. It was called the Krastira mikveh. That was, as a matter of fact, almost from the only mikvehs here in Crown Heights. At 3 o'clock in the morning, he was going to the mikveh, and all of a sudden, he had a terrible accident. Reb Shmuel Zalman of his father, as one of the Bachrim in 770, Simchas Torah, everybody's a little bit after Mashke, such a high level of Simcha, and he hears that his uncle had a tragic accident on Brooklyn Eastern Parkway. The police, the ambulance, everybody came running. It was a scene, an unbelievable, horrific scene. They took him to the hospital, and then everybody started telling him, you need an emergency bracha from the Rebbe. Now it's 3 o'clock in the morning. The Rebbe had gone home already. And everybody's telling him, you're going to the Rebbe's house, you're knocking on the door, and whatever it is, you're asking for a bracha. He had no choice. He was also considered a ben bayis in the Rebbe's house. So he comes to the Rebbe's house. His hands and feet were shaking. He's going to go knock on the Rebbe's door and ask for a bracha. He comes to the door and he knocks on the door, and there's no answer. He doesn't know what to do. He's trembling. He can't come back to 770. Everybody's going to scream at him. So he knocks again, and there's no answer. Then his head was flying with all kinds of different ideas. He started thinking, well, he's from Eretz Yisrael, it's Yontif Sheni Shel Golyos. He really doesn't have to keep Yontif. And before he knew it, his hand pressed on the bell of the Rebbe's house. And over here, he was really shaking already. And all of a sudden, the Rebitzon opens the door. And she saw Reb Zalmanov, and she saw that something was very urgent. And she asked him very calmly, tell me what happened. So he says that his uncle was walking on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, a terrible, terrible, tragic accident. He was lying there soaked in blood, and it was a scene that no one wanted to see. The ambulance finally took him away. He's right now, pikuach mamish, pikuach nefesh, and he's sitting over there in Kings County Hospital. So the first thing the Rebitzon told him, calm down. Calm down. Many times there's an accident that when you watch it, you see it, it looks much, much worse than it really is. And I'll tell you even more, the Rebitzon continues. Many times it looks like the worst happened, and really it's something much, much smaller. It could be even a foot should be broken, and that's it. He went away from the house, sure enough, he felt that was a bracha, but he still felt that he wanted a bracha from the Rebbe. So she said, the Rebbe went upstairs. I'm not going to bother him, but you could be sure that everything will be fine. Went back to 770. A few hours later, this Rabbi Yisrael Yitzchak was back in 770 on a wheelchair, and exactly the way the Rebitzon said, with a cast on his foot. That Simchas Torah was, after that they were dancing all night with Reb Zalmanov. But over here you see, and the Rebbe said it many times, that even a bracha from the Rebitzon has the koyach of a bracha from the Rebbe. When I was a child, wasn't that long ago, and I asked your age, I think I was your age or maybe a year younger, I was wondering, how does food get to the Rebbe's house? Who delivers? Today is much more common, delivery and so on. How does food get to the Rebbe's house? So I thought there were only 2 or 3 grocery stores in the whole Crown Heights. And one of them was a Lubavitcher. His name was Rabbi Yankel Lipsker. He had the store where today is Kan Superet. It was much, much smaller at the time. So one day I walked into Rabbi Yankel and I told him, Rabbi Yankel, how does the food get to the Rebbe's house? So he had a very deep voice, enough to scare a 12-year-old boy. And he says, was darfst du wissen? Why do you have to know? So I said, I would like to have the schus if there's any way that I could deliver food to the Rebbe's house. So he says, yeah, there's a box right there. Take it. My heart almost fell to the ground. Over here, I'm planning a whole thing. And over here, he says, yeah, there's a box right there. Go take it. There was one problem. I didn't even know where the Rebbe's house was. Today, everyone knows where the Rebbe's house is. Then, people didn't go on that block at all. There was not one Yid that lived on that block. After the Fabrengen, when the Rebbe used to walk home, everybody would walk behind the Rebbe on Brooklyn Avenue. The Rebbe would never even go through where their church is. The Rebbe would cross over. When it came to President in Brooklyn, the Rebbe would stop over there. And everybody would stop, and the Rebbe would walk himself to his house. So everybody assumed the Rebbe lives in the middle of the block, but a young boy to know which house the Rebbe lived in, no one stepped onto that block. So over here I'm standing with a box. I couldn't tell Rabbi Yankel Lipsker that I don't know where the address will say, so get out of here. So I pick up the box and I start walking towards President Street. And my heart is shaking. I don't know where I'm going. I come to President in Kingston. I meet a bacher there. So I ask the bacher, where's the Rebbe's house? He looks at me. Could you imagine, like a little kid coming over? Why do you have to know? I said, I have to bring something over. She says, really? This is going to the Rebbe's house? Come, I'm walking with you. We walked together to the Rebbe's house. And Rabbi Yaakov told me, don't go to the front door. You go through the back door. I come to the Rebbe's house. I knock on the door. The Rebitzon opens up the door. You could imagine, as we all know, that the Rebitzon was seen very little for many reasons. So no, I didn't even know what she looked like. I did know what Rebbe Tzachana and not Chamedina looked like. When we were little children, we used to play on the steps next to the Rebbe's room. And she used to come out and either give us candies so we should go away, we shouldn't make so much noise, or if we would make trouble, she would scream at us. But the Rebitzon, we never saw. Over here, I'm standing in front of the house, and the Rebitzon opens the door. I'm shaking. I take the box, and I don't even know what to do with it. And I put it down on the table. And she saw that I was a little boychik all lost over here. So she says, Baruch sich, it's okay, put it down. And then she says, Wait a minute, wait 1 minute. She goes to her pocketbook and she takes out 3 dimes. And over here, I'm going to take money from the Rebitzon. I was so excited to be able to do it. And I didn't want to take. So she said, in America is a minhag to geben a tip. In America, it's a minhag to tip. So therefore, you brought me a service. Here is 3 dimes. And this was my first encounter with the Rebitzon. My friends saw that every day I leave sometime by lunchtime, by recess, I get lost. And so they started following me. Where am I going? And they found out what I do. I had a few good friends that did the same thing. And Rabbi Yankov Lipska said no more. He got a delivery boy. And that was the end of my first career in the Rebbe's house. But what I want to share with you is Saimitz Adar Rebitzon, as Rebbe Label mentioned before, as a Chana to Yud Alef Nissan. As a Chana to Yud Alef Nissan, there's so much going on with all different types of matanas. But the first year that really the Hachana for Yud Alef Nissan happened was Shnas HaShivim, Tovshin Lamed Beis, when from around the world, Shluchim, which today there's thousands of Shluchim, then there was not even hundreds. But from around the world, everyone wanted to give a matana to the Rebbe. This one brought a key to a Beis Chabad. Everyone had different things that they came with a matana. There was such a hype for Yud Alef Nissan. I said, where am I? A little boy, 10 years old. And I also wanted to give a matana. So I went to a store on Kingston Avenue. Today, it's Fruity Expressions, I think, the candy store on the corner. It used to be a stationery store. I bought myself a little, today they call it an iPad, then it was a notebook for 15 cents. And I decided I'm giving a matana to the Rebbe 70 hours. 70 hours. Extra learning besides yeshiva. Every day I would come home, I would learn 10 minutes, 15 minutes from Yud Shvat till Yud Alef Nissan. And that would be my matana. Every day I made myself a little note how much I learned that day, and I wrote it down. Comes before Yud Alef Nissan, how do I bring my matana to the Rebbe? A young boy, we wouldn't even step into Americas. How am I going to notify the Rebbe? And I didn't want to tell my parents, I didn't want to tell my teachers, I didn't want to tell anybody. So I went, like you know, today there's these papers by the oil, the ones that don't have lines, a certain size. I still don't know why it's that size. I still don't know why it can be with lines. But those are the papers that you write at Settle to the Rebbe. My father had such a pad. Quietly at one morning, I ran to the mikveh quietly. You know, all of a sudden, middle of the week, I didn't want anybody noticing me going to the mikveh. And I take his pad from his desk and I write in Yiddish a letter to the Rebbe. And what do I write? Rebbe, everybody is bringing matanas for Yud Alef Nissan. This is my little matana. I can't bring something big. I'm bringing something small. But this is as much as I could do for now. I felt it's a minchasani, but let it be. I take that paper, put it into an envelope, and I start going towards 770. How do I get it into the Rebbe's room? So anybody who had a bakasha went to Merkez, brought in a zettel, and that zettel was later brought into the Rebbe. I take that, and I start going to 770. If I'll tell Rabbi Klein, Rabbi Binyamin Klein, that I'm bringing a zettel, tell you what, a boy, bring a zettel to the Rebbe, go to your father, go to your Rosh Yeshivas. Like, there's no such a thing, you're writing in a zettel yourself. But I didn't want anybody to know. So I went to 770, and then I walked into Merkez. I made myself, I'm looking for something, and I dropped it on the floor, and I ran away. I'm walking down Kingston Avenue, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? All my hard work, it's not even going to come to the Rebbe. It's a piece of paper, an envelope on the floor. The janitor will come, pick it up, and throw it in the garbage. So I right away ran back to 770, and I walk into Merkez, and I say, "Oi, Rabbi Klein, there's an envelope on the floor over here." She says, "Really?" So I said, "It's right there." So I pick it up, he takes it, he doesn't know who it's from, he puts it in that green box, and that's going to the Rebbe. I ran away, I'm so happy, no one knows, no one will ever find out of my secret. Yud Alef Nissan Shnas Hashivim. The whole world is coming to the Rebbe. It was packed, it was such an excitement, such a Bachrim were learning, they're up all night, my morim, everything. The Rebbe found time to answer a little boy. And the Rebbe wrote, Goidla nachas ruach shegaramta with your matana. Okay. I didn't know anything. I come home. My father tells me, did you write a zettel to the Rebbe? Could you imagine my heart fell down? I turned red, purple, and pink. And I said, yeah, how do you know? What happened? He says, there was an answer. And at first I was embarrassed, but then I said, wow, if on Yud Alef Nissan the Rebbe could find time, and I was a child then, I didn't have major, now how much more do I appreciate it? But B'shas Maisa, I said, this is an unbelievable thing, that a Yud Alef Nissan, when the Rebbe was so busy with everything, and at time found the time to encourage a young little boy that gave a minchasani. It wasn't something big. It was a pashta minchasani. This is a true father. This is a father that finds the time and the encouragement for every Talmud. The Rebbe wanted Maaseh B'Poel. Everything that we did should be Maaseh B'Poel. The Rebbe never looked for big. The Rebbe never was embarrassed of taking something small. The Rebbe wanted, you do a Maaseh Toiv, this will be Goyrim, this will be Moshech to something else. You start with one thing, it'll be Goyrim to a bigger thing. But nothing is too small. Now we're 15 days away from Yud Alef Nissan. 15 days, how much could we do? There's no such a thing of how much. Whatever we do, that is the Hachana and Hagdama for Yud Alef Nissan. So the first thing is, because it's a Svadus, it's a Yom de Pagra, we should make a little Hachlata. The Hachlata doesn't, if the Hachlatas that you take B'tzibur is one thing, but the Hachlatas that you could take as a Ish Prati, as a Chassid, Rebbe, I'm doing for you something privately. I don't have to share it with anybody. Whatever you do, this is going to be your Matan of Yud Alef Nissan. Then, Tavshin Mem Ches was a very sad year, the year that Rebitzon passed away. The Rebbe spoke then, Chof Adar of Tavshin Mem Ches. That's when the Rebbe came out with the Miftzah Yom Haledes. What did he want? The Rebbe said clearly, a Fabrengen, Avos Reim, to make Hachlatas. A little bit later was another Fabrengen, Rosh Chodesh Nissan. What was then? Then was the Hukam HaMishkan, Yom Shukam HaMishkan. The Rebbe instituted, and he wanted the children should have their Cheder, should be a Makam Mishkan. You should have a Siddur, a Chumash. I'm sure you all have it from when you're born. But many times when it comes to Pesach cleaning, somehow the pushka gets moved away and the chitas gets lost. And so before you know it, after a few years when you had it, when you were born, it's not there anymore. But this is a raw from the Rebbe. You should make sure that you have one and it should be yours. And when the Rebbe says the room should have one, obviously is to be able to use it and to be able to learn in it. And a tzedakah pushka, the Rebbe even that year mentioned Haggadah Shel Pesach. But it looks like it was, I don't know why, there's no big mitzvah of that, but could be it was a Rosh Hashanah. But the other things is definitely something that should be there in every single room. You must probably, these are the years that you learn Hakoines, there was 1 year, or you learned it 2 years ago, no? This year you learned Hakoines. Oh, the 1 year that was the parents would always go in for Yom Haledes, for Yechidus. 1 year I was bugging my father, I want to go in with you. I want to be by Yechidus. And I don't remember, 10 or 11 years old. And my father agreed. At first he didn't want, this is his moment, the few moments that he has with the Rebbe, taking a little boy. But at the end, he did take me in. So my father and I went into Yechidus. My father gave the zettel. The Rebbe read the zettel, and gave him the brachas as usual. And then the Rebbe turns to me and he says, Bist heint given in yeshiva? You're in yeshiva today. Zog epesibe. Say something. So could you imagine someone comes over to you in the middle of the street? What did you learn today? I was totally lost. So the Rebbe said, Welche Masechta lernst du? So I said, Baba Kama. Welche Perek? I said, Hakoines. So the Rebbe said, no, so say the first din. So I started saying, Hakoines saying ladir, v'nol b'faneh shaloi karoi, v'yotze v'hezika, what's the din? Chayiv. Said it with such confidence, I said it so clearly. So the Rebbe becomes serious and he says, who's Chayiv? What's the question? I said, the Balabas. So the Rebbe said, I don't understand. The Behema was Mazik. Why does the Balabas have to pay? So I said, so hat nicht kein Geld. She doesn't have any money. So the Rebbe smiles and says, Soll sie gehen antleihen. Let the Behema go and borrow money. She did the damage. I said, the Behema hat nicht kein Seichel. The Behema doesn't have a Seichel. So the Rebbe again becomes serious and says, the Behema hat nicht kein Seichel. It was a nice Yechidus. You walk out, you tell all your friends. Next day I came back to class and I said I was in Yechidus the night before and so on. A few years later, when you become a little bit older and you become a little bit smarter, you know that a Yechidus is not a time that the Rebbe has conversations with people. Every second and every moment is a hero in life. And I started thinking, what is this? And the answer is, you all know, you all started learning a little bit Chassidus, a little bit Tanya. You know you have an Nefesh Lekis, you have an Nefesh Bahamis. Who's the Balabas? The Nefesh Lekis. Who's the Behema? The Nefesh Bahamis. The Rebbe asked, if the Nefesh Bahamis is the Behema is Mazik, why does Balabas have to pay? Why does the Nefesh Lekis have to pay? So the Rebbe wanted, you have a Nefesh Bahamis, get working on it. It's the Nefesh Bahamis responsibility. So I was, doesn't have money, doesn't have Seichel. It's all terutzim. When someone does damage, and Nefesh Bahamis does damage, you have to pay. The Nefesh Bahamis is achroi. And if not, you schlep in the Nefesh Lekis with you. The Nefesh Lekis, the Balabas, becomes in Beis HaSurim together with you. And this was a Yechidus that only B'Shas Ma'is I thought it was funny and cute. Only later on did it start meaning what is Hakoines saying ladir. When I was a little bit older, today you go to the oil, you write into the Igris. So there's a standard nusach, pan, unaloided achmem rabim, your name, bingo. You can most probably photocopy from one to the other. And so it became a nusach. But when we wrote then, we didn't start off unaloided achmem rabim, my name. If you wrote for a reason. So every time you wrote to the Rebbe, it was something different. So when I was a little bit older, after my bar mitzvah, I was 14 years old already, like every troubled teenager, that you'll reach me at Hashem. And I wondered, I asked the Rebbe, there's so many things we learn in yeshiva, this Gemara, this Shulchan Aruch, this Chumash, this Chutei Sichos, this Chassidus, everything. So like, it's too many subjects for me. I want the Rebbe should tell me 1, 2, 3 subjects that I should learn, and I'm going to concentrate on those 3 subjects. The Rebbe never answered me. And I knew the Rebbe saw that settle. The Rebbe never answered. So obviously, it's a question that, if the Rebbe would have told me a certain things to do, I would have done it. But then you're taking away the B'chira Chavshis, number 1. Number 2, you have to do everything. What kind of question is it? Few months later, still bugging the Rebbe, and I said, I tried. I don't feel successful in yeshiva. So the Rebbe answered, "Your gaito matzasa taimen. There'll be effort. You'll see you will be matzliach." Another few months went by. I tried this, I tried that. And I wrote again to the Rebbe. I said, I tried. It's not working. The Rebbe answered in very big letters. Maybe I was a little shy that sounded a little bit bigger, but I saw the answer. The Rebbe said, divrei Razal. Chazal say your gaito matzos atamin. How do you question? How you doubt it? And if you didn't achieve it because there was no yigiyah. And the Rebbe made 3 big question marks and 3 quotation marks. After that, I didn't ask already. Today, every bacher, every talmid has the opportunity to go, to write, and to ask whatever they want. In a prat, today you could ask, you don't have to ask every month, you could ask every week, you could ask every day. Today the doors are open. There's only one place that you can pour out your heart, besides your good teachers, and your good Magudishurim and Mashpiyim, but the only place that you could cry, pour out your heart, and will listen and will answer is to the Rebbe. A bacher has to get used to start writing to the Rebbe. If you write it in English, you write Lashon Kodesh and Yiddish. The Rebbe reads every single language. The Rebbe reads every single heart, what a bacher needs and what you want. And these are the ages that you start searching. I'm in yeshiva. Am I successful? Am I a top bacher? The other bacher are learning 100 blot by peh. I could only do 10. The Rebbe likes the minchasoni. There's nothing too small. There is nothing too small just because I'm not the top. Who says the Rebbe is looking for the top? Who says the matana has to be a top? In Torah, there's a minchasashi and a minchasani. And they're equally, and as a matter of fact, by the Eibush, there's more chashav a minchasani. Why? Because it comes from a broken heart. So if a bacher has to make achana now from Chof Adar, and he's going to Yud Alef Nissan, nothing is too small. Because one thing will lead to another, and you'll only grow. I remember when I was in Yeshiva, there was a group of Talmidim that decided they took a Sefer of Maimorim. We divided it, and everybody should learn a Amid, a page, and so on. But there was one smart boy, and he said, that's what you're buying off the Rebbe with? No, you have to learn 5 Maimorim, you have to learn 10 Maimorim. That's a matana. This is small things. At the end was that all those that did 1 page or 2 amudim in the Maimer were part of this matana to the Rebbe, and the one that said they have to give something big, didn't end up doing anything. And that's very important to know, that many times you go for something big and it's not biyichelis for a person to do. There was someone that once a bacher that was a big lamden and a big masmid, and he came to Yites Kislev, he took like 5 or 6 mesechtes. The Rebbe went and searched up that bacher, and he says, you sure you're going to do it? And he was a bacher that was able to do it. When it comes to something that's a matana, keep it to what you could do, to what you could deliver. I just want to have another few minutes. Another very short thing that still bothered me all my life, and I wanted to get back into the Rebbe's house. I was always saying, and therefore, if I could help something in the Rebbe's house, I'd be more than happy. Then it was after Mendel Notte got married. This was Tafshil Lametes. He left, and I took over. I pushed myself in, and I took over his job. I had to sleep in 770, and every day I would call the Rebitzon. I would ask her what she needs, and I would go. I remember once taking the Rebbe's shoes to Empire. There used to be a shoe store. Today, I think it's either Sasav Svarm store, and one of those stores over there. And the Rebbe wore the shoes for many, many years. And it was so torn, the Rebbe was going to the oil. That's when they had a chance of repairing the shoes. And he was telling me, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe biting the Shich, it was a Pasha Yid. I used to go to the cleaners for the shirts. All my mashpiyim told me, do not go into the house. It's not for you. And I couldn't understand. I was a bachir. I thought it was the biggest chus and so on. And I couldn't understand. They tried to explain, Rebbe is not the Gashmistic part. You have to do the Ruchnis, learn the Maimarim, learn the Sichas. That's what you have Makusha. But the things around, it's nice, but it's not for you. It still couldn't get myself to leave it, and I did it for 5 months, until I saw that really, did you grow in Yiddishkeit? Did you grow in Chassidishkeit? Did it get you anywhere? Or you were able to tell your friends, I did this for the Rebbe and I did that for the Rebbe and so on. So then my mashpim called me in and they said, we're telling you again, you should not go there. So one day I called up the Rebitzon and I started ecking and becking. And I said, I couldn't say the mashpim, tell me don't work in the Rebbe's house. So I started saying, it's taking too much time of my learning. And so she says, before you tell me anything, I could tell you it's not for you. And she made me feel so comfortable. I felt like, whoa, before I even had a chance to say anything, she was saying it for me. And she said, you should go to yeshiva, spend your times in yeshiva, and sitzen lernen, and es matzliach sein, and all the other things is nice, but it could be done by someone else. And after those 5 months, is different stories that I had with the Rebitzon, nothing grandioso, nothing major, but what you're able to see, the edelkeit of the Rebitzon that which was able to detect. One time I came in, and she gave me, I think, $20 or $30 to do a few errands. And after I finished, I came back and I had bills of everything. I had a bill of the cleaners and a bill of the shoe store and a bill, and I started showing it to her. So she says, you think I don't trust you? She says, if I wouldn't trust you, you wouldn't be working here. And she didn't want to see any bills. So I wanted to give her the change. She says, haltis af nextamo. And that's how the beginning, how she made everyone feel around her, feel so comfortable. And that's how she understood and felt what I was going through every time I came and I was shivering. So I just want to conclude and tell you, first of all, you're a great, great audience. I wish your Rebbe, I'm sure, has this every single day, such a quiet class, and you sit and learn, you know how much you could accomplish with so quiet. And Dave shall give as Yom the Pagra from Chof Adar to the Rebitzon, and from here to Yud Alef Nissan, that would be a mismach geula legeula, a Yom Aledes, to the geula of Pesach and the geula of Yud Alef Nissan, b'Nissan nigalu b'Nissan asidim leigoel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Sperlin. Thank you very much, Talmidim over here around the United States and Canada and later on the world, Kamuvin. And the Ezer Hashem, we will gather together one more time before Yud Alef Nissan to help in our preparations to further them. Maybe that just the words, the stories, the schos of the Rebitzon and the Heirais that we could take from the Rebitzon and from what Rabbi Sperlin shared with us as our Chana for Yud Alef Nissan, by us just making that achlata in itself will be that typical skill to bring about the Geula Shlema, and may we be zeicher to that take from Yad Mamish now. Thank you very much.